The Duke and Duchess adopted a boy as a companion for their son, but they never expected to discover she was actually a girl when bathing her. Loni trembled in fear. She believed the Duke would surely fly into a rage and send her back. Then she would be beaten to death by the orphanage director like her friend. At this moment, the Duchess, who knew the truth, was somewhat troubled, but she still instructed her maid to give her a good wash. When she saw Loni, she was instantly stunned. How could there be such an adorable girl? The next second, Andy, the second son of the Duke's mansion, came rushing in shouting, "I've already said I don't need a playmate." Just as he finished speaking, he spotted Loni standing to the side. He asked his mother in confusion why she had bought a doll. Everyone present couldn't help but laugh. "I originally wanted to bring her back as your playmate, but she turned out to be a girl." Loni kept bowing and apologizing, and begged them not to send her away. Her soft and adorable manner instantly captured Andy's heart. Isn't this the legendary cute little sister? So he immediately ran to his father requesting to keep Loni. "I don't mind her being a girl, I really, really like her." These words instantly gave Loni a glimmer of hope. Perhaps she could truly live here. However, the Duke spoke sternly. "Enough, now that you've seen the child, that's fine. It's getting late, go back to your room." His cold voice broke Loni's heart. She couldn't believe she had indulged in such unrealistic fantasies. After all, she was the one who had deceived them first. At this moment, only the Duke's family of 3 remained in the room. The Duchess pleaded with her husband to let the girl stay, saying she would surely be severely punished if returned, while Andy firmly agreed. But the man remained resolute, refusing regardless of their arguments. The 2 of them tried to persuade him, expressing their disagreement. Then the Duke added, "She's so unbearably cute. We really should have a daughter." His friend had always been showing off to him. Who would have thought that in finding a playmate for his son, he'd find a girl? This must be fate. So he decided to let the girl stay temporarily, though the matter of formally adopting her would need further consideration. This decision reduced many inconveniences for future relationship developments. The Duchess was happy but also found it quite strange. If he had no intention of sending her away, why use such a frightening expression when telling her to leave? It turned out the Duke just thought she looked tired and wanted her to go rest. Andy also added that his father's expression had looked like he was about to eat someone. This made the Duke panic, realizing his first impression had been so poor. Meanwhile, Loni, who learned she could stay, was crying tears of joy, but hearing that the Duke was coming over terrified her. After all, the man's expression had indeed been quite scary. Just then, the Duke knocked and entered, but the girl was already cowering by the bed, trembling. "Have you rested a bit?" Loni answered loudly and nodded vigorously. "Thank you very much for letting me stay here. I'm so sorry I couldn't immediately bow to you." The Duke couldn't imagine what she must have endured to be so afraid, so he gently comforted her. "I didn't come to hear your apologies. I came to give you a new name." It was actually the Duchess who had brought this up, when they were expecting their eldest child. They had already thought of a girl's name that would suit her perfectly. "You shall be called Loni, Loni Evelyn." The girl remained silent. This made the Duke think she didn't like it, but unexpectedly she had tears in her eyes, thanking the Duke for giving her such a beautiful name. Her sweet smile instantly captured the man's heart. So the Duke immediately ordered a maid to prepare his sister's former room for her. This made the maid grind her teeth in anger, cursing inwardly that a lowly orphan shouldn't be allowed to stay in that room. Suddenly, the Duke, who was about to leave, said, "I forgot to mention something." The maid secretly smiled, believing the Duke couldn't possibly let an orphan stay in such a nice room. But unexpectedly, the Duke very seriously and earnestly said, "Your nickname is Lolo, remember that." This left both of them dumbfounded. And on her first night at the Duke's mansion, she had a nightmare, dreaming of being falsely accused and beaten severely by the orphanage director. At this time, the malicious maid, seeing she wasn't getting up, became angry and violently woke her. Loni was startled. She sprang up from the bed, gasping for breath, clearly terrified. However, the maid didn't care at all. She impatiently told her to get up and wash quickly, because she despised Loni, this orphan, from the bottom of her heart. A commoner who had somehow risen above her station. "Water is dripping on the floor, wipe it up and hurry to change your clothes." Loni looked at the formal dress on the bed with great joy. She never imagined she would wear such a beautiful dress. "Hey, what are you staring at? Do you want me to help you dress?" The woman's sudden shouts startled Loni. She could only say she could manage it herself. But after the maid left the room, she fell into contemplation. "How exactly should I put this on?" Suddenly, Andy's voice came from outside the door. The boy excitedly said, "Lolo, Big Brother is here to get you." The maid, who had bathed her last time, worriedly asked how her body was. Andy was still unaware of this matter. Loni quickly said it was nothing. When they were alone, she begged the maid to keep her secret. Soon the first family dinner began. The Duchess warmly called her darling and asked if she had slept well last night. Even Andy thoughtfully helped cut her steak and told her to take big bites for the best taste. Loni tried hard to open her mouth wide and imitate him. With her cheeks stuffed full, she looked just like a little hamster, melting the hearts of the 2 beside her. "This is so delicious, it's really so delicious." Andy was extremely proud, saying, "See, listening to your brother wasn't wrong." Just at that moment, Andy noticed Loni's sleeve had touched the stake, so he quickly helped roll up her sleeve. The bruises on her wrist were shocking. Loni immediately knelt down, begging them not to send her away. "I know such ugly scars don't belong here, but please, could you not send me away?" To her surprise, the Duke said nothing. He directly took her to the carriage. "May I ask you something? Were those injuries inflicted by the orphanage director?" Loni trembled with fear, not daring to answer. The Duke realized the girl was still afraid of him, so he spoke gently. "If you feel uncomfortable living with us, I can find someone else to take care of you. But we all hope to live with you. Of course, only if you're willing." These words warmed Loni's heart. But when she looked up, she saw the orphanage, and began to fear that the Duke was returning her. The orphanage director came out fawning, thinking the person in the carriage was the Duke's daughter. But when he clearly saw Loni's face, he immediately started cursing. "You wretched girl, how dare you deceive me?" He then continued to slander her, saying she was always full of lies. However, the Duke didn't believe him at all. He smiled at the girl and said, "You don't need to worry about anything, just speak your mind boldly." Loni felt reassured. She gathered her courage and shouted, "The one who's lying is the director. You know my friend Pete did nothing wrong, yet you beat him to death." The man stammering clearly showed his guilt. The Duke had him dragged away. By evening, the two finally returned to the mansion. The Duchess and Andy had been waiting outside for a long time. As soon as they saw them, they rushed over to check if she was hurt, showing deep concern. Loni could hardly believe that she could meet such kind people, who unconditionally believed in her, just for who she was. This moved the girl beyond words. That night, the Duchess even brushed her hair, imagining how cute she would look when her hair grew longer. Then she used holy water to cleanse her wounds. But when all the injuries on her body were revealed, the Duchess still looked heartbroken. "Child, why did you live as a boy at the orphanage?" "Mother told me to do so. I'm not really sure why." The Duchess could understand. Perhaps she was afraid you would be bullied. "You don't need to hide your identity anymore. You can live safely here." Loni completely believed this. The next day, the Duke made an identity certificate for Loni, with himself as the guarantor. The girl's full name was Loni Evelyn Cray. This was the surname of a collateral noble family of the Duke. It would help her with education and various future matters. The girl was very grateful, promising to work hard to learn to read, and willing to do whatever the Duke commanded. Then go out and play. The girl just stood there, dumbfounded. Andy's been clearly indicating that he wants to play with you, even if not for Andy's sake. A child's job is simply to play, so go out and do your job. Soon the two came to the grass outside. Andy flopped down and beckoned Loni to sit beside him. "Yes, young master." "Lolo, why do you always call me young master? Can't you call me brother?" "How could I dare? I can't be so disrespectful to the young master." Andy felt somewhat disappointed, but still told her to call him brother when she felt comfortable. "Anyway, you must call me brother in the future." Loni hesitated, not daring to pinky promise. Andy, seeing this, grabbed her hand directly, then lay on the lawn contentedly. Soon he began to snore. Loni decided to take a look around while he was asleep. The lake here was unbelievably beautiful, so she decided to climb a tree for a better view, just like she used to. But today's shoes were obviously unsuitable. When she was halfway up, she suddenly lost control and fell. At the critical moment, a handsome young man suddenly appeared and caught her. The girl was instantly infatuated. The next second, she learned he was actually the Duke's eldest son, Yus. He had returned early today and went to the forest to meet his brother, and to see what the girl his father mentioned in his letter was like. As he said this, Yus suddenly smiled at Loni, making the girl blush instantly. Just then, Andy suddenly came close asking her, "Lolo, why aren't you eating?" The term, a Lolo, confused Yus. "Brother, you can just call her Lolo, it's the nickname father personally gave her." The exposed Duke felt somewhat embarrassed. He pretended to be composed and said it suited her. "It does suit her well, then I'll call her Lolo, too." The girl had wanted to greet him elegantly with her new name, but that plan was now ruined. At this point, Andy suddenly stuffed a piece of cake into Loni's mouth. The sweet strawberry mixed with cream made her quite happy. The Duke and Duchess watching this scene broke into doting smiles, but the eldest son stared at her ominously. What was going on? Suddenly, the butler reported visitors. It was the Marchioness and her daughter, who were also the Duke's sister and niece. The woman came with an aggressive attitude, clearly looking for trouble. It turned out the malicious maid had embellished the story, saying Loni was very cunning, not only disguising herself as a boy to sneak in, but also seducing the Duke to obtain a noble surname, and occupying her former room. Therefore, Sophia was determined to drive Loni out, and her daughter Lydia immediately tried to get close to Yus upon arrival. Just then, the boy noticed Loni's juice glass was empty, so he stood up and refilled it for her. This gesture infuriated Lydia. The ill-intentioned mother and daughter had already planned how to expel Loni. Soon the tea party hastily concluded. Andy complained, saying he didn't like his aunt and Lydia. "Aunt always tries to educate me about everything, and Lydia always follows my brother around, treating me like a servant. But now I have you, Lolo. I can just play with Lolo." He happily pulled Loni to go to his room, only to discover that Loni's hands were covered in injuries. These were from her earlier tree-climbing fall. The doctor found it strange. Although they were fresh injuries, they showed signs of healing. Do your wounds always heal this quickly? Yes, even serious injuries heal quickly. The doctor looked at Loni's arm. The injuries from her first visit were completely gone, although the Duchess had used holy water on her. Theoretically, they shouldn't have healed so fast it was hard to explain. The doctor said a few words and left thoughtfully. This touched something in Loni's heart. For the first time, she had thoughts about her future. She wanted to become an outstanding doctor. Just then, Andy peeked in from outside, inviting Loni to play in his room. But Lydia suddenly appeared, pretending to be very friendly. I'm so happy to see you, so let's spend some time just for girls, shall we? Loni knew the girl before her was a true noble lady. Perhaps by following her, she could learn how to quickly fit in here. So she immediately agreed. Lydia gave an evil smile when no one was looking. How would she make things difficult for Loni? It turned out that just because her brother had looked at her once in the crowd, she had incurred Lydia's hatred. On the surface, she pretended to be very kind, but in reality, she let her maid mock Loni for being uncultured, using both hands to hold a teacup and making such a loud noise, lowering my lady's taste as well. Lydia pretended to angrily stop this, while actually ridiculing Loni as a country bumpkin. Little did she know, all this was overheard by Yus, her beloved brother. It turned out Yus had met his brother on the way, and heard about Lydia taking Loni away. He originally thought the two girls of similar age would get along well, but past events made him inevitably worried. Earlier, a maid accidentally spilled water on his hand. He didn't blame her, instead asking if she was scared. However, Lydia not only verbally abused the maid, but even physically punished her privately. Although this situation was different, he was still concerned, and decided to check personally. He never expected such a thing would happen. How dare you insult a child sponsored by the Duke's manor? Are the Marquis' maids always this arrogant? Lydia insincerely apologized for her maid, but Yus didn't fall for it. He directly stood in front of Loni, supporting her. This child has the right to do anything here. As for that maid, she will be punished by the Duke's household. Lydia was trembling with anger, yet still forced a smile before Yus. But in her heart, she was already planning her next scheme. After leaving the room, Loni blamed herself for her ignorance. Yus discovered this and immediately tried to reassure her. You don't need to be so cautious. This is our home, and they are merely guests. However, these words didn't have the intended effect. Instead, they made the naive girl more determined to learn proper etiquette, so as not to embarrass the Duke's family. This played right into Lydia's hands. She proactively offered to let Loni join her lessons. Loni naively expressed her gratitude. At this point, an unexpected person appeared. Pete, her friend from the orphanage who was supposed to be dead. Loni excitedly went forward to confirm, but the boy seemed not to recognize her at all. Loni apologized for her behavior, but Lydia coldly said, "You don't need to apologize like that. He's here to take beatings for me." Loni didn't understand this, but Lydia said noble aristocrats couldn't possibly be randomly beaten by teachers. Soon the etiquette lesson officially began. Loni, who had never been exposed to such things, made frequent mistakes. This angered the family tutor who was looking for fault. The woman immediately picked up her punishment ruler to hit her. Lydia hypocritically offered to lend her the whipping boy. But how could the kind-hearted Loni let someone else be punished in her place? Lydia, whose scheme had succeeded, stopped persuading. The loud whip sounds echoed down the hallway. Several days later, Andy, who had finished his fencing lesson, went to play with Loni. But when he opened the door, he was shocked. Loni looked terribly emaciated. "Sister, what happened? You're almost a skeleton. I won't let whoever did this get away with it." This sudden concern made Loni cry uncontrollably. Just then, Yas arrived. The girl immediately felt ashamed. She covered her face and was about to flee. But before she could leave, Yas lifted her up like picking up a chick. "First tell me what happened." The attentive big brother Yus discovered the scars on her hands, and knew she had been concealing something. So he found an excuse to throw Andy out, then knelt on one knee, taking out ointment to apply to his little sister. The gentle movements, the serious expression, all made Loni's heart race. She still wanted Yus to keep her secret, but the boy only told her to rest well, then turned to leave and handle matters. "Young master, I want to go with you too. I don't want to stay in the room alone." Yus found this strange. There should be a dedicated maid to care for her. Why would she be alone? But before he could finish speaking, he realized something was wrong. It was indeed just her alone, like an empty room. Even the fireplace wasn't lit. He recalled overhearing maids planning something that morning. It was targeted at Loni. So he wrote a letter to be delivered to his mother, and invited her to Loni's room. The Marchioness decided to go along. After all, she had orchestrated a grand scheme. How could she not attend? As the two passed by Lydia's room, the sound of things being thrown and broken came from inside. It turned out her necklace was missing. The girl cried, saying it was very important, given by her father. Then, with an innocent expression, she mentioned she had been taking lessons with Loni recently, naturally directing suspicion toward Loni. Soon a premeditated tea party began. The Marchioness continuously praised and flattered Yus, because she wanted her daughter to marry him. Currently in the entire empire, only the royal family and the duke's household possess divine power. Divine power not only represented authority, but also legitimacy comparable to the royal family. Rumor had it that young Yus had already manifested divine power. If the two married, all of it would be hers. However, Yus was not very willing to engage with his presumptuous aunt, so she targeted Loni instead. First with a few words, making the girl appear flustered due to nervousness. Then she signaled to her maid to deliberately spill tea. After soiling the carpet, she pretended to be surprised and took out the already hidden necklace, accusing Loni of stealing the necklace, which explained her nervousness. To think there could be such an ungrateful person. The Marquis family treated you so well, yet you did such a despicable thing. Falsely accused, Loni anxiously explained she had never seen this item before. But the woman pressed on aggressively. You still dare to quibble? This proves low-born people are beyond redemption. Loni wanted to explain but could no longer speak. She instinctively looked toward Yus. Seeing the boy's face was very displeased. Was he also angry with her? Just then, the Duchess rose and slammed the table, attempting to stop this farce. The child-beating incident was already unforgivable. Now you want to slander her without any evidence? The woman was shocked but still denied everything, even portraying herself as a victim. As the two were at an impasse, Yus reproached his aunt. As an adult, don't you feel ashamed? Then immediately switched to a different demeanor to comfort Loni. Lolo, don't worry, we will protect you. This scene made Lydia tremble with jealousy. You actually believe what that lowborn wretch says? Yus's expression instantly turned cold. This made the Marchioness even more dissatisfied. Now with solid evidence, you still only believe what she says. This is clearly insulting our Marquis family. I absolutely won't let this go. Just then, the Duke pushed open the door. The one who crossed the line first was you, wasn't it? He ignored his sister who wanted to explain, and walked straight to Loni, gently taking the girl's hand and apologizing. I'm sorry, Lolo, I knew nothing about this. He angrily stared at his sister Sophia. I heard the person who made her like this is you? The woman felt somewhat guilty, but stubbornly said it was all done by the family tutor, not her. But how could the Duke not know that only with her instruction would the family tutor dare to do such a thing in the Duke's mansion? As this child's guardian, I have the right to punish you. You should find a new godfather. The woman simply couldn't believe it. Her brother would abandon her for that wretched girl, even willing to break ties with the Marquis family. But clearly his attitude was firm. Lydia angrily shouted, Who does she think she is, uncle? You actually want to adopt her as your daughter, rejecting me for that lowly orphan. Sophia understood the situation and said no more, taking her complaining daughter away. The Duke gave a signal, sending away the relatively younger Andy and Loni, preparing for a major cleanup. Now call all the servants in the mansion to me. Meanwhile, Loni took that necklace, planning to return it to Lydia personally. After all, it looked very precious. But as the two just opened the door, Lydia angrily rushed over, about to strike Loni hard in the face, but Andy unhesitatingly stood in front of her, though his face stung terribly. He still smiled cheekily. Wasn't I super cool just now? Anyone who saw that would think I'm a handsome brother, right? Lydia was furious, directly shouting that Loni was the family's biggest trouble. The usually timid girl suddenly stood in front, with determined eyes moving forward, making Lydia back away repeatedly. But unexpectedly, Loni only grabbed her hand to return the necklace. Thank you, miss. Thanks to you, I've learned a lot. I will take your words as admonishment, and absolutely won't cause trouble here. On the other side, the Duke angrily gathered all the maids. Everyone whispered, not knowing what had happened. Only the abusive family tutor was very nervous. Unable to leave with the Marchioness in time, she was intercepted by guards. Standing at the back, Aine felt full of remorse. Although she had done her best to be kind to Loni, she couldn't prevent other maids from mistreating her, so she believed she had done wrong. And there was also the boy nearby, who was beaten for trying to dissuade the frenzied Lydia, then abandoned here to fend for himself. Just then the Duke came down the stairs, asking if they knew why they had been summoned, seeing no answer. He walked straight to the family tutor, asking what she had done wrong. The woman still stubbornly refused to admit. The Duke went straight to the point. Because you arbitrarily punished the future lady of the Mars family. The other two involved maids instantly turned pale. They never thought an orphan girl would be so valued. The Duke's expression was grim, his words even more frightening. I now revoke the title bestowed by the former Duke. From today onward, get out of my territory. Seeing everyone's reaction, they clearly thought the punishment was too severe, although the Duke also had such concerns. But if he didn't take firm measures, then Lola would likely experience such things again. From now on, I'll question each one. I already know everything, so don't think about lying to me. Meanwhile, Loni stared at the necklace Lydia had thrown down. Andy didn't want her to care about such trivial things and directly threw the necklace away. Loni then remembered to tell Andy to quickly see a doctor. The boy scratched his head embarrassedly. If you called me brother, I probably wouldn't hurt anymore. The girl innocently asked, but you need to apply medicine quickly to reduce the pain, right? Just then, Loni saw a group of people walking out of the mansion with luggage, including that whipping boy, followed by the maid Aine. She happily ran over, asking where she was going. Ayn stammered without speaking. At this point, the butler came forward to ask Loni if she knew this maid. She's been the big sister who has been kind to me since I first came here. Ayn smiled, touched, but didn't say a word for herself. The butler then stated it was on the Duke and Duchess's orders that they leave. Hearing this, Loni froze. The next second, she burst into tears, shouting, "No!" On the other side, the Duke trembled with anger at the servants' rehearsed statements. Both husband and wife felt somewhat guilty. If they had been more attentive, such things wouldn't have happened. Therefore, the Duke expelled everyone and gave no recommendation letters, which essentially cut off their work history, making it difficult to find another job. He had thought Yus would find this punishment too severe. Unexpectedly, it quite the contrary. He even felt it wasn't enough after all. The way they treated Loni was simply unforgivable. The Duchess believed this was sufficient. That child is very fragile, excessive punishment might be counterproductive. It's best to keep this from her. However, just then the butler anxiously came to report. The young lady already knows and is crying outside. At this time, Loni was clutching Ayn's dress, preventing her from leaving. As soon as the Duchess appeared, she hurriedly went forward, begging not to send Ayn away. The Duchess thought there had been a mistake, but Ayn didn't think so, because in her heart, she blamed herself, seeing others bully the young lady, yet unable to stop them. The kind-hearted Loni quickly stepped forward, stating Ayn had done nothing wrong. When I first came, only Ayn would speak to me gently, so I hope she can stay here. The maid was very moved, having done just a small thing, yet it was remembered. This scene made the Duchess smile with satisfaction. You are the first person she so wants to keep, so you can be her exclusive maid. Ayn was 1,000 times willing, although I'm not worthy. But if given the chance, I will definitely take good care of the young lady. Then Loni spotted the boy in the crowd. Again, awkwardly spoke up. Madam, could you let him stay too? If he goes back, he'll become a whipping boy again. Of course, the Duchess immediately agreed to such a small matter. Instantly, everyone began discussing. Exclusive maids were usually senior servants with years of experience. Ayn was so lucky. So led by the black-purple-haired maid. Everyone knelt down, begging Loni to give them another chance. Yus was the first to refuse, raising his sword to her shoulder. Enough, you should be grateful you're only being expelled. The boy ordered the guards to drag the others away, then turned around smiling to invite Loni back. Ayn had a doting expression, while poor Andy was forgotten in the corner. I'm relieved to have resolved these issues before leaving. Where is the young master going? The holiday is about to end. I'll return to the academy tomorrow, so time won't be too tight. Loni's heart immediately sounded an alarm, and Yus seemed to sense it. So he joked, "Don't you want me to leave? Then I won't go." Loni suddenly felt very embarrassed. How could I stop you from leaving? Yus gently patted her head, telling her to wait here obediently. Just then Andy came running after them with a resentful look. He grabbed Loni and scolded his brother. Lolo is mine, big brother, you can't take her away. Yus pretended to be hurt. You used to always follow me around saying you liked me the most. Have fun, children. I'm leaving first. Loni thought Yus was returning to the academy right away, but actually he wanted to practice his swordsmanship before dinner. Andy's eyes immediately lit up, and Loni standing nearby also wanted to go, so she gathered her courage and said she wanted to serve the young master, like pouring tea and such. But Yus firmly refused. I don't need anyone to serve me, just watch as my sister. Loni responded very happily, but habitually called him young master. At this, the mischievous Yus changed his mind. Andy reminded her that she should call him brother. Then he waited expectantly. Seeing Loni struggling to say it, the two boys pretended to leave. Loni finally shouted, "Brother, take me with you!" This instantly touched the hearts of both boys. The three happily headed to the training grounds. Soon Yus began his training. Although Loni didn't understand swordsmanship, she thought from the bottom of her heart that her brother was simply amazing. Just then Andy suddenly appeared, shouting that even if his brother was handsome, she shouldn't fall for him. Lolo could only be his sister. He vigorously swung his sword, and Lolo very supportively said he looked cool. Will both brothers become knights in the future? Actually, they have to inherit the family. To become the head of the family, one must gain the approval of the divine object, and the divine object of the Duke's family is the Spear of Ares. Swordsmanship is just the most basic requirement, so they must continue training. After Yus finished speaking, he went to put away his sword. Meanwhile, the usually cheerful Andy became gloomy, believing his brother would soon resonate with the divine object. Since childhood, everyone had high expectations for his brother. So Andy, with his ordinary talents, wasn't as carefree as he appeared. Just then, Sir Kaz, who was in charge of security, arrived. Loni just politely curtsied, instantly stunned the tough guy, and the man brought Andy's new playmate. It was actually the boy who had been beaten up, Leon. The Duke's second son had a new playmate, but he was clearly unhappy, because having just Lolo was enough. But when Leon mentioned he was there to be a playmate and training partner, Andy's attitude changed immediately. So you're here to learn swordsmanship first. You should have said that earlier. Let me teach you specially. Who's teaching whom? Andy loudly retorted when questioned by his brother. Of course I'm teaching him. Better than brother at least. Brother is only good himself, he has no talent for teaching others. Yus remained expressionless, and directly gave him a powerful flick on the forehead, sending his brother flying to the ground. The two roughhoused, showing their close relationship. Leon, seeing this, led Loni to sit at the side. Sir Kaz looked at the four adorable children, with a satisfied smile like a proud father. Soon it was time for Yus to leave. Loni sobbed, not wanting to part. The boy wiped away his sister's tears with a handkerchief, and told her to play well at home. He would be back soon. Afterwards, Loni was alone in her room feeling sad. Ayn entered carrying desserts. Eat some of this, it will make you feel better. Indeed, children's emotions change so easily. She happily began eating. Young Master Yus said you would like this chocolate. Indeed, I feel much better now. Seeing this, Ayn was truly relieved. Loni hesitantly asked, "Why are you so kind to me?" Ayn paused for a second, then expressed her fondness enthusiastically. "And when I first saw you, I was reminded of my sister. She was a very obedient child like you, miss. But please don't be like her, because heaven takes away good children too early." Loni empathized deeply, and was about to cry. "I also had a very good friend who passed away early, so I want to become a doctor, to help those good children." Ayn was moved by her kindness on the spot, encouraging her to start studying hard from now. But the next moment she pointed to the door, saying the same thing as the Duke. "Go out and play. For children, playing outside is the best learning." At this moment, the Duke was looking at Loni thoughtfully. They had already decided to adopt her, but before that, they needed to confirm whether her biological parents were still alive, according to what the orphanage director had disclosed. When that person entrusted the child, they said she was a very noble child who should be well cared for. So who exactly was Loni's true identity? And just a few days ago, the Duchess had asked her friend Viscountess Prolin to teach Loni, and hoped she would set the course progress slowly, neither undermining the child's confidence, nor depriving her of outdoor playtime. However, Loni was very serious. Her enthusiasm for learning was quite high, carefully imitating her name after the teacher's example. Her adorable manner was very endearing. Just as the teacher was about to teach her other people's names, Loni blushed and asked if she could learn Brother Yus's name first. The teacher gladly agreed, directly writing out his full name. Loni stared at the paper with her heart racing, clearly showing the look of a lovesick girl. The teacher immediately noticed her feelings, but since the Duke and Duchess were about to adopt her, the two might face some obstacles in the future. Soon came Loni's first outing. The maid told her they were going to buy things for Brother Andy today. Loni was very excited about this outing, and so was Ayn. But she was happy about having a thorough dress-up session. Why do this? Because this was a memorable first outing. I have many outfits for the young lady to try. It's so exciting! Let's begin. After a while, the Duke's family of 3 came to the door to wait. Fortunately, Ayn had already finished preparing Loni. Andy eagerly rushed in. The moment they saw the girl, everyone was stunned. She's really cute. Lolo was already cute, but today she's even cuter. Loni happily thanked her brother, and Andy recited a line he had just learned from a novel. "My sister, I won't give her to anyone. Everyone was amused by him." The Duke picked up Loni, and the 4 set off toward the village. On the way, the girl was speechless at the sights before her. Andy smugly stated that in the future, there would be many more interesting things, and Loni sincerely agreed. This pleased the Duke greatly. The 3 exchanged glances. It turned out that today's shopping trip was suggested by the Duchess. There wasn't a single thing in the house that belonged to Loni. She had been using things they had prepared for their future daughter. That's why the maids thought Loni would leave soon. So this trip was specifically to shop for Loni. But the girl was too cautious, so to prevent her from refusing, they lied that they were going to pick clothes for Andy. Then they could buy a lot of things for her under the pretext of matching outfits. Good. Everything was going according to plan. When they arrived, everyone brought over a pile of items. This grand display really frightened her. At this point, the Duke appeared to stop Andy and his wife, saying they would scare Lolo. But then he took out a dress he had selected, seriously stating that Lolo would prefer this one. The girl was dizzy with confusion, not understanding what was happening. She just stood there holding a bow, dazed, while the Duchess concernedly asked if there was nothing she liked. Loni had to express her confusion. "Weren't we here to buy things for brother? I feel this doesn't suit him." Andy heard this nearby. He hurriedly explained that the 2 of them were always together. So anything that looked good on Lolo, he would like. Unexpectedly, Loni took out a colorful ribbon, saying she felt it suited him. Andy was completely dismayed, but could only accept it reluctantly. The Duke, seeing this, began his plan. Since Andy had already found something suitable, let's pick something for Lolo too. Loni thought she already had a lot, so she wanted to refuse. Andy immediately stepped up. "I want to match outfits with Lolo, so everyone will know Lolo is my sister." Even so, Loni still looked very hesitant. At this, the Duke directly had people buy the entire store. "Since we don't know what you like, we can only do this. If you tell us what you like, we'll buy that." Loni was truly frightened by this extravagant behavior, but still kept her head down without any response. The attentive Andy noticed his sister had been staring at some shoes, so he spoke up for her, meeting the expectant gazes of all 3. Loni bravely expressed her liking for the shoes. However, the Duke still secretly told the clerk, "Pack up all the clothes that match these shoes, don't let the child know." The clerk secretly rejoiced at the huge sale. Soon Loni came out wearing her new shoes, and they headed to the bustling market. The place was full of wonderful things, truly delightful. Andy excitedly pulled Loni along as they ran, but they nearly collided with a speeding carriage. Fortunately, it only passed by, and neither was hurt. The Duke angrily ordered Andy, "If you run around recklessly again, you'll go back to the mansion." But just then, Loni's bow was blown away by the wind. She hurriedly chased after it, but the three behind her didn't notice. The girl followed it into a small alley. Suddenly, a boy's voice came from behind. "Are you looking for this? Because she looks so cute." The boy deliberately held the bow high, and Loni's dazed expression made him laugh. "Here, take it," seeing Loni hesitating. The boy teased her, "Do you want to stay with me longer? Is that why you're not taking it?" Hearing this, Loni quickly snatched it away. "Haha, I was just joking, Miss Loni. I was just reminded of my sister." Clearly the boy knew her, because Loni hadn't mentioned her name. The boy avoided eye contact without saying more, directly pointing out the way back, then disappeared. Although Loni was puzzled about the boy's identity, she hurriedly ran back. The Duke saw her and immediately came over, checking if she was injured. The Duchess also hugged her tightly, asking about her condition. Andy even cried directly, blaming himself for not protecting her. This genuine warmth touched Loni deeply. After returning, Ayn asked how she felt about her first outing. Loni happily showed off the shoes the Duke had bought her, and mentioned meeting the blonde boy. Ayn thought it might have been an elf. According to legend, when children face difficulties, elves appear to help them. The innocent Loni believed it instantly. After all, the boy did look very much like an elf. However, at this moment she thought of Brother Yus, thinking that Brother Yus was still more handsome. Just then, Grandfather Butler knocked and entered, saying that visitors had arrived who wanted to meet Loni. It was His Highness, Prince Maris, and his family. At this time, Princess Bianca asked doubtfully, "Is that child even cuter than me?" Andy was very proud, of course. "When you see her, you'll definitely be shocked." The princess still looked completely unconvinced. But the next second, the moment she saw Loni, she immediately rushed over, chattering around Loni. "Oh my god, are you a doll or an angel? Even your hands are like a baby's. How is this possible? I ever have such a small and cute period too." But in reality, she was only a little older than Loni. "Your name is Lolo, right? Then you can call me Bibi." Loni was completely confused. Grandfather Butler said the Crown Prince's family had arrived. So the girl in front of her was a real princess? It was incredible. At this moment, two childish ones began fighting over Loni, and then the prince, who had been absent, arrived. The boy turned out to be the It elf she met in the alley earlier. "Miss Loni, you can call me Henry." The girl, with her extremely cute appearance, captured the hearts of the princess and prince. Just drawing a cartoon portrait made the princess like her so much, repeatedly praising both the drawing and the artist as equally cute. The shy Loni gathered her courage and said the princess was also very cute. The two went back and forth. The teacher watching their interaction was very delighted. Although the princess had slowed the lesson progress considerably, Loni's face now had many more smiles. At this time, Loni noticed the doll on the princess's lap. After getting permission, she took it in her hands, examining it. The realistic appearance and soft feel were both irresistible. "Doesn't Lolo have a doll? Ask the Duke to buy you one. He can buy you 100. Although Loni liked it, she was too embarrassed to express it, so the princess offered to help ask, frightening Loni, who repeatedly refused. Just then the prince knocked and entered, with a serious expression, saying his sister was disturbing Loni's lesson again, but he was doing the same. The teacher secretly sighed. It seemed today's lesson was completely impossible. Loni nervously stood up and curtsied, but the prince smiled and told her she could relax, acting as if they were familiar, appearing casual but with red ears. Bianca instantly understood. She leaned in with a mischievous smile. Clearly her brother had fallen in love. Only Loni understood nothing, still smiling foolishly. It turned out Henry had heard about Loni from Andy's letters, but he hadn't expected her to be even cuter than described. "I hear you're taking music lessons?" "Yes, I'm learning musical notes. To learn well, you need to listen to good music. Perhaps I can help you." Loni was very supportive, and Bianca proudly said her brother was excellent at playing piano. Indeed, the next moment, melodious piano music filled the air, so beautiful it could make one's heart leap. The love-struck Loni thought of Brother Yus again, but felt something was different. Before she realized it, the music had ended. The prince generously offered to send his own teacher to teach her. "She has taught royalty since before, and would surely be a great help to you. But this isn't free, you must—" Just as Andy pushed open the door, he saw this scene. "Henry, how dare you touch Lolo's face without my permission? Only I can touch Lolo's face." The two boys quarreling made Bianca laugh hard. Then the three childish ones began fighting over Loni. That evening, Loni was preparing to tell the Duchess about the prince sending a teacher, but happened to overhear their conversation. It turned out the royal family's divine power was nearly depleted. They might turn to His Highness the Crown Prince, and the culprit was Countess Castor. Loni suddenly felt something strange inside, so she pushed open the door and asked, Who is this Countess Castor you just mentioned? She's the Emperor's mistress, and also the actual power holder in the palace. She'll stop at nothing to put her son in the crown prince position. The Duchess didn't want Loni to encounter bad things too early, so she quickly ended the conversation. Did you come here for something? Oh yes, Prince Henry said he would send a music teacher to teach me. He also said she once taught the princess. Did he mention her name? I think it started with A, but there are too many people with names starting that way, so she accidentally missed the key information. The next day, Andy and the prince began a duel. The two made a bet on the outcome of this match. After several rounds, Andy was still defeated. Leon thoughtfully brought towels for both, and Andy, recalling their interactions during this time, felt he was indeed a very kind person. Just then, Loni and the princess arrived. Everyone's reactions were very enthusiastic. Andy noticed Leon was beaming, looking very happy. Could this guy like Lolo? Absolutely not. My sister can only be mine. So he quickly rushed to the front to block him. Seeing his sister looking a bit dispirited, he decided to show off his recent training results. He assumed a sword-drawing stance, then swung with force. The sword energy instantly swept up the scattered leaves. Lolo praised him as very impressive, then quickly turned to ask the princess what she thought. Judging by her expression, she was clearly amazed. Andy happily ran towards his sister, but was stopped early by Henry. You've forgotten about our bet. Today the right to touch Loni's cheeks belongs to me. So that's what their match was for. Andy instantly felt slapped in the face, but still tried to weasel out. Lolo's face belongs to Lolo. Only when Lolo agrees can it be touched. Didn't you say yesterday you needed permission? I don't care. That was all invalid. Lolo, you tell us whose face it is. Facing the three expectant gazes. Suddenly being put on the spot, Loni was extremely nervous. The prince smiled and told her not to worry. If you're unwilling, I absolutely won't touch you. Andy confidently believed Loni would choose him. After all, he was her brother. The prince also believed he would be chosen, as he had always presented a handsome image. Even Leon couldn't help but have a small hope. This scene was exactly like an ancient emperor selecting concubines. Bianca nearby was extremely happy. Who wouldn't want to ship this romantic novel scenario? Just then the Duke appeared. Because the knights were coming to train, they needed to return to the mansion. Wasn't this the perfect savior? Loni tugged at the Duke's pants, mustered her courage and said, "Please be the master of my cheeks. The Duke can touch my face anytime." The two boys were instantly crushed. The unknowing Duke smiled and picked her up. "Although I don't know what game you're playing, I'm glad you chose me." Then the two walked away chatting happily. The princess comforted her brother not to be discouraged. After all, the Duke was indeed more handsome than him. Great, not comforted at all. Soon came the day of parting. Everyone reluctantly said goodbye. Bianca didn't understand. We'll see each other again. Why be so sad? Loni expectantly confirmed with the Duke. You mean we can meet again, right? Of course, if the princess is busy, she doesn't have to see me. I really enjoyed my time with the princess. Bianca happily hugged her, saying they were already friends and must meet often to play. Henry smiled seeing this scene. The still somewhat childish Andy thought he was still coveting Lolo's face. But actually, he coveted Lolo herself, so he took out a carefully prepared pink bow and placed it in Loni's hand, promising to bring an even better gift next time they met. Then the carriage drove away. Loni immediately felt a sense of loss. The Duchess comforted her not to be too sad they would meet again soon. Loni expressed her feelings for the first time, expressing her reluctance to part with the princess and prince. It's okay. If you miss the princess, just tell me. We can go see her together. Loni was very grateful to have met such a wonderful family. So she stood up and curtsied, thanking them for making her so happy every day. The hearts of all three people melted. The Duchess even felt her sister was right. Loni might truly possess a divine power that makes everyone find her adorable. Just then, the butler hurriedly came to report. There's a woman at the door, claiming to be Miss Loni's birth mother. The Duke felt something was amiss, and the Duchess was very sad. If she had some unavoidable difficulties, then Loni would understand and leave with her mother. Thinking of this, her heart was breaking. The Duke saw his wife's concerns, but the woman's identity was still uncertain. Everything would wait until they met. So the Duke ordered his subordinates to quickly investigate the truth during his meeting. Meanwhile, the Duchess went to the room, intending to talk with Loni alone. After sending her son out, she asked Loni if she remembered what her birth mother looked like. Upon learning she was too young to remember, the Duchess still told her about her mother's arrival. The sudden news was hard for Loni to accept, but they still needed to confirm her authenticity. Do you have any names besides the one you used at the orphanage? The girl couldn't remember anything, only knowing her mother had sent her to the orphanage. At this time, the Duke was in the reception hall. The woman introduced herself as Louisa Bennet, and said Loni was originally called Colroy, a name given by her deceased husband. Because life was too difficult then, she sent her to the orphanage, taking a similar name, Roni. She originally thought the orphanage was a reliable place, but didn't expect the director to be so cruel. Later, when I went to find the child, I heard she had been taken away. You don't know how surprised I was. That someone of your high status would adopt a child born to someone as lowly as me, and even willing to support her, I'm truly grateful." The woman's expression aroused suspicion, but considering her hair color matched Loni's, and she knew which orphanage, the Duke believed the woman might indeed be Loni's birth mother. But to hear the Duke's household would support the child and then come to claim her seemed too opportunistic. The Duke thought that even if she was the birth mother, there was no need to return the child. But if Loni wanted to live with her mother, he had no position to prevent it. Just then, the Duchess brought Loni in. The woman immediately rushed over, hugging the child tightly. Loni was frightened and froze on the spot. The Duchess quickly pulled her away. "Can't you see the child is scared? Even if you are her birth mother, please don't touch her like this." At this moment, the Duke stepped forward and gently asked Loni if the name Colroy rang any bells for her. But Loni couldn't remember anything. The woman cried uncontrollably, expressing sincere apologies to Loni. "I'm sorry, mother came too late." Loni had thought meeting her mother would make her happy, but her current feelings were as frightening as having the orphanage director standing before her. The Duke temporarily arranged for them to stay in the guest room and let the shocked Loni go back to rest. Loni's mind was full of sadness about leaving. Andy, hearing the news, also rushed to ask, "Is it true you'll leave here? If she really is your birth mother, will you leave here and return to her side?" Loni didn't know how to answer. The next second Andy was grabbed by Sir Kaz. It was still training time. Andy had just sneaked out. Andy struggled on his back, hoping Lola wouldn't leave. Now Loni was even more afraid. Once she left here, she would never see Brother Andy again. The Duke and Duchess, Ayn and the teacher, and Brother Yus. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but cry. Ayn just wanted her to be happy. Just follow your heart. Loni realized she only felt reluctance about leaving, and hadn't thought about her mother at all. And whenever she thought about possibly living with her mother, she felt dizzy and trembled. Just then Leon suddenly appeared, sent by the Duke to protect her, but Loni demurred, saying she might be leaving soon anyway. But Leon was very determined. No matter where Loni went, he would follow. At this time, in the guest room, the maid following the woman was marveling at the Duke's mansion's luxury. Louisa suddenly smirked. "It seems that child doesn't remember anything from when she was little. Not even remembering her mother is pitiful. I'll work hard to make the child accept me as her mother." Is she really Loni's birth mother? A few days ago, she had visited the orphanage, using some candies to get closer to the children, and took the opportunity to inquire about Loni's past. Upon learning that she often hid away alone, she suspected it was to conceal her identity as a girl. Soon, the first formal dinner began. The woman had never seen such a lavish meal. She grabbed the utensils without any decorum and began eating voraciously, looking like a starving soul reborn. Meanwhile, Andy, just as he had done before, thoughtfully cut up his sister's favorite foods. The Duke also offered the newest dishes. Even the Duchess had prepared her favorite dessert. The woman then realized she might be giving herself away. She hastily pushed the food in front of Loni and explained that this was her first time eating such delicious food, which was why she acted that way. She promised to make it up to her in the future, words that deeply saddened the Duke and Duchess. They felt as if they might lose Loni at any moment. Just then the butler arrived, stating there was an urgent matter to report. The vast dining hall was left with only 3 people. Andy, fearing his sister would soon leave, decided to spend as much time with her as possible while she was still around. He grabbed her hand and ran outside. Meanwhile, the so-called mother continued to devour the food, not sparing even a glance for her. At the same time, the Duke reviewed the recent investigation report. He learned that the woman's identity matched what she had claimed. Strangely enough, it mentioned she had visited the orphanage, claiming she wanted to adopt a child. So, it was likely she used adoption as an excuse to gather information about Loni, because the orphanage director had mentioned that the person who brought the child there said the child was of noble birth. Yet the woman repeatedly claimed to be of humble origins. The Duke felt deeply remorseful. He shouldn't have allowed them to meet so hastily. In the end, it was Loni who would be hurt. Suddenly, he remembered the children were still with that woman. He immediately ordered his knights to apprehend the two. Meanwhile, the woman disguised as a maid was angry because she couldn't eat breakfast at the Duke's mansion. But now she just needed to lure Loni away. It turns out she was Beth, the sister of the maid who had been expelled for mistreating Loni. The 2 spiteful women had devised a plan for revenge. They found Louisa, who resembled Loni's mother, and paid her a substantial sum to act along. She had already planned that after making a fortune, she would abandon Loni at an unknown orphanage, but just then, she encountered the searching guards. It was clear that the Duke had discovered something. Right at that moment, Louisa appeared, still gloating about how delicious breakfast had been. Beth immediately grabbed her and fled. The Duke learned they hadn't captured the 2 women. With a grim expression, he ordered them to intensify the search. He also noted that a commoner couldn't be so familiar with the mansion, so there must be an accomplice inside. These words struck fear into the hearts of the 2 women, so they decided to extend their claws toward Loni. At this moment, the 2 children were playing on the lawn. Andy felt deeply sad thinking his sister would leave, but he couldn't stop her from leaving with her birth mother. "You can come back to play anytime. I'll be waiting for you." The two embraced each other, crying profusely. Just then, the two wicked women suddenly appeared. Louisa, using the excuse of wanting to speak with her alone, forced a smile and opened her arms to Loni. Colroy, come to mother. Although Andy was reluctant, he felt he couldn't prevent their mother-daughter reunion, so after saying a few words, he turned and left. Seeing Loni hesitate, the woman immediately employed a pitiable act. I know I don't deserve to be a mother, but can you give me another chance? I promise I'll do my utmost to make it up to you. Loni was instantly moved. Crying, she rushed into her mother's embrace, but the moment she touched the woman, she felt a numbing pain, as if pricked by a needle, and black smoke emerged from behind her mother. Frightened, she backed away repeatedly. Just then, search calls echoed from the distance. The woman instantly revealed her vicious nature. Just as she was about to touch Loni, Leon appeared heroically and stood in the way. Andy, who had just left, returned to check the situation. Soon the woman was apprehended by knights, and the Duke embraced Loni tenderly, comforting her. You just had a nightmare. Sleep well and everything will be fine. At this moment, the two women were blaming each other, shirking responsibility. Loni finally broke down in uncontrollable tears. That evening, she developed a high fever. The Duke and Duchess immediately summoned the family doctor. The Duchess was so worried that tears fell. Loni found the scene before her very heartwarming. Andy must be worried about her too. And yes, as she was thinking about them, she drifted off to sleep. When she opened her eyes again, she was shocked to find Yus, who had been away studying, right in front of her. The girl sat up in shock. It turned out Yus had learned of Loni's ordeal from the Duchess's letter, so he rushed back. He took the porridge from the side and said, "You probably don't have much strength now, let me feed you." Loni was very embarrassed and quickly stated she had recovered and could eat by herself. Although her mother was fake, meeting so many good people made her feel very fortunate. Soon Loni recovered her health, and they all played happily like before. Yus, who had finished practicing with his sword, came to join them. This time, he was the one to seek. Andy pulled Leon away and disappeared in an instant. Loni was nervous and didn't know what to do. Then she remembered Leon had just hidden under the sofa, so she quickly crawled underneath, but unexpectedly got caught. Yus turned his head and immediately spotted Loni. He promptly went forward to help her get untangled. Her adorable appearance made Yus laugh. This made Loni so embarrassed that tears welled up. "I'm sorry, you're just too cute." Hearing Yus's compliment made Loni's heart flutter. So she very seriously said to Yus, "I really, really like you." Her brother gently patted her head and also expressed his affection. At this moment, the two who had hidden well, hearing Lolo's loud call, hurried out. But due to the game rules, they were caught red-handed. The innocent Andy was only focused on arguing with his brother about what had just happened, while the observant Leon noticed the disappointed girl on the ground. He quickly reached out to help her up. Following the girl's gaze, he discovered a secret, that the girl had feelings for Yus, although his heart was also very sad. As long as he could see Loni attain happiness, he would be content. However, the happy days always passed quickly. Yus eventually had to return to the academy to continue his studies. Loni became completely dejected. Even her favorite little cakes couldn't cheer her up. The Duchess, thinking her body hadn't recovered, was very concerned and asked her to go rest. Hearing this, Loni quickly began eating large bites. "I'm fine, the cake is delicious." The Duke and Duchess apologized again for the recent incident. "We're very sorry you had to go through this. We want to become your real family. You can rely on us anytime. So would you like to be our daughter?" Loni was very conflicted inside. She knew the Duke's family were all good people. Meeting them was a blessing of 3 lifetimes. Being with them would mean eternal happiness. But after careful consideration, she still declined. "I'm sorry, but I still want to wait for my mother. Although I can't remember what she looks like, and I don't know why she sent me to the orphanage, but I want to see her again, to ask her about all these things." The Duke and Duchess expressed their complete understanding and embraced Loni. You don't need to apologize. When you resolve what's in your heart, tell us then." Loni thus felt the warmth of the Duchess's embrace. A few days later, the Duchess suggested holding a tea party. After all, Loni didn't have many friends her age yet. But Loni was afraid of encountering someone like Lady Lydia again, who would cause Andy to protect her, so she became very hesitant. The Duchess reassured her that she could invite whoever she wanted to the tea party, such as Princess Bibi. Lolo also had a small hope. Perhaps she could meet friends as gentle as the princess, so she determined that she wanted to attend the tea party. Soon, the day of the tea party arrived. Loni was beautifully dressed and looked even more adorable than usual. The venue was decorated exquisitely. Loni could hardly believe it would be so grand, so she sincerely expressed her gratitude to the Duchess. At this moment, Leon suddenly appeared. Today, he had also been meticulously dressed, looking even more handsome than usual. Originally, the Duchess wanted to select a lively and adorable girl as a companion, but the Duke believed Leon would be better. Not only was he familiar with Loni, but he had also attended many social events. Sure enough, Leon's presence helped Loni relax her nervous state. Suddenly, a maid delivered a letter. It turned out that Princess Bianca had developed a high fever yesterday. Although she was very much looking forward to this meeting, she was unable to get up, so she couldn't come today. The Duchess was very concerned. But the tea party had already begun, so cancellation was impossible. Loni indeed showed signs of withdrawal, but she didn't want to waste the Duchess's efforts, so she actively stated that she would be fine. And with Leon there, they didn't need to worry. The Duchess felt relieved and also told her if she felt uncomfortable at any point, she could leave early. So the tea party began, with the attendees being Agnes from the Count's family and Sylvia from the Viscount's family. After the three introduced themselves, the Duchess greeted them and then left. As soon as the three sat down, Agnes began expressing her envy. "I heard the Duke's family is sponsoring you, and even your dress is so beautiful." However, Sylvia suddenly mentioned the tea they were drinking. It turned out to be the finest tea from Mount Balin. But clearly, Loni knew nothing about this. This drew Sylvia's displeasure. "Even though you're a fallen noble, you get to enjoy such good resources, it's really unfair." At this point, she noticed Leon nearby. She deliberately asked in a challenging manner, "Is he assigned by the Duke's family to serve you? Did you choose him because he's handsome?" Loni stammered, not knowing how to explain. After all, Leon wasn't really her playmate. Seeing this, Sylvia smiled maliciously. "Could there be something we shouldn't know about?" But before she could finish, Leon spoke up in defense. "I apologize for interrupting, but the young lady was my choice." Then, to the panicking Loni, he gave a reassuring smile. Unable to get her way, Sylvia was fuming. Why would such an excellent boy be Loni's companion, while her own attendant was so mediocre? "Tell me, how much do you cost? I can pay more than she does." Leon looked at her as if she were a fool. Loni also hurriedly explained that Leon wasn't that kind of person, but Sylvia was clearly unwilling to let it go. Just then, Miss Rowena from the Duke's family arrived. She was the only daughter of the Alicia family, one of the Empire's only 3 great dukes. Even at a young age, she exuded nobility, with rumors saying she would become the queen of social circles. The Duchess had invited her out of necessity, not knowing if it would be a blessing or a curse for Loni. At this moment, Loni handed the cream puff in her hand to Rowena. Fortunately, it wasn't rejected. This gave her a bit more confidence. Perhaps the two could become friends. This made Sylvia even angrier beside them. Why could she invite the noble Miss Rowena? Just then, Agnes suddenly asked, "My mother heard from Marquise Rodan that the Duke brought you back for some purpose, but she didn't say what exactly. So what is it?" Loni knew her orphan identity had been concealed, so it wasn't appropriate to tell the truth directly. But the ill-intentioned Sylvia beside her began to chime in, insinuating that the Duke had pedophilic tendencies, which was why he brought Loni back. Loni could sense a very negative aura from Sylvia, exactly like the fake mother from before. "Loni, don't you know either? How could she not know? After all, they're close enough for her to hold this kind of tea party." Although Loni didn't know what they were speculating, she could tell they were insulting the Duke. She absolutely wouldn't allow that to happen, so she gathered her courage and firmly refuted. "Well, stop it, Sylvia! The Duke is not that kind of person." However, the previously silent Duchess Rowena suddenly laughed. "This is quite interesting. Why not let her speak? If there weren't such topics at a tea party, how boring would it be?" Sylvia was overjoyed, believing this was an excellent opportunity to connect with the Duke's daughter, and also to eliminate the proud and arrogant Loni. "I heard the Duke himself really likes children. That's why he used sponsorship as an excuse to bring them back. I also heard that those children disappeared." Loni angrily refuted loudly. A Duke would absolutely never be that kind of person. Sylvia then took the opportunity to act innocent, trying to gain favor. Unexpectedly, Rowena directly refuted. "And a rumor must be mistaken. The Duke would absolutely never do such a thing. Besides, Marchioness Rodan wouldn't casually spread such rumors." It turned out Rowena knew about the Duke refusing to lend money to Marquise Rodan. She never expected he would be slandered because of this. Given these circumstances, Sylvia and Agnes, shouldn't you both apologize to Loni? The Count's daughter immediately sincerely expressed her regret to Loni, while Sylvia was furious, until she was reminded again by the Duke's daughter. She reluctantly went through the motions. Loni finally beamed with joy. "If you met the Duke in person, you would definitely like him too. Although he seemed a bit scary at first, he's actually a very gentle person." Agnes was immediately delighted, hoping to visit Loni's home, and also meet young Master Yus. "If you invite us, I'll invite you too." The three happily made a pinky promise together. Loni was extremely happy. She felt Rowena was like the princess, both good people. In her innocence, she didn't hold a grudge against Sylvia and actively invited her to join, and to please the Duke's daughter, even though Sylvia was unhappy inside. She smiled and agreed. Unexpectedly, Rowena gave her a strange look, startling her. She felt from the bottom of her heart that all this was Loni's fault. But on the surface, she still smiled and joined them. However, the moment her hand was placed on top, Loni instantly felt a sharp pain. The atmosphere suddenly became very awkward. Loni suddenly paused, feeling that she exuded a strange aura. But the girl didn't think much of it. She just thought it was because she was in a bad mood. To avoid worrying Ain, She didn't mention those unpleasant things. However, just as she was about to go to sleep, she suddenly felt a pain and fainted. Then she developed a high fever again. Everyone was anxiously by her side, and Andy was so worried that he cried loudly, "I can't be without Lolo. If you cure Lolo, I'll do anything you ask." The family doctor was amused by this scene and began joking with the child. "Anything? Can I take Miss Lolo as my sister and have her come with me?" Seeing Andy genuinely scared, the doctor quickly explained he was joking. The young lady wasn't seriously ill, just perhaps not yet ready for tea parties. The Duchess felt somewhat remorseful. She had been too hasty. After the incident with the fake mother, she had also fallen ill. But she always felt Loni's body was a bit weak. The Duchess suddenly remembered. When she was about Loni's age, she had also been like this due to divine power. And the family doctor said Loni's recovery was unusual. Could Loni also possess divine power? If so, it would mean Loni had royal blood. The next day, Loni had completely recovered. The two little ones happily played on the lawn. At this moment, the Duchess suddenly appeared, saying she wanted everyone to have afternoon tea together to celebrate Loni's recovery. She then sent Andy away. The Duchess decided to confirm whether Loni truly possessed divine power. "Child, I have something to ask you. Have you ever sensed strange auras?" Loni had indeed had such experiences, fearing there was something wrong with her that would worry the Duke and Duchess. "It's not like that. I'm just worried if you're feeling unwell anywhere else." Hearing this, Loni felt reassured and told about her unusual experiences. She had felt the same way with the fake mother and Sylvia. Even though they were smiling, even though they seemed nice to her, there was still a strange feeling, and it would make her very nauseated. This was indeed an important point. But based on this alone, it couldn't be determined as a manifestation of divine power. Perhaps she was just more sensitive than ordinary children. To know for sure would require releasing divine power into her body. But if it were a different type of divine power, they would clash, putting her in danger. So the Duchess was unwilling to do this. Perhaps there could be other safer methods. The next day, the attendant brought what the Duke had instructed. But judging by his expression, it wasn't what he had imagined. At this moment, Loni suddenly appeared. The Duke hastily hid the item like a thief and smiled, greeting the child. "I've been so busy with official duties lately that I haven't had time to see you." Loni immediately smiled and curtsied. "Duke, are you well recently?" The Duke was immediately saddened. Lolo had become formal with him, and Andy also laughed out loud, because no one at home asks for well-being like that. Loni immediately blushed with embarrassment. This was the etiquette she had learned from the princess. She didn't expect to create such a misunderstanding. Andy taught her hand in hand how to properly greet family, instantly making the Duke melt with cuteness. "Where are you two going?" Upon learning they were going to meet the princess and prince, the Duke smiled and told them to have fun. Suddenly he remembered something very urgent. He grabbed Andy. "You haven't forgotten that incident, have you?" They were referring to the time when Loni received a hand kiss from the prince. The father and son immediately determined, this time, such a thing absolutely must not happen again. Meanwhile, Loni and Andy arrived at the palace garden. The princess had prepared cookies to apologize for not attending the tea party. Loni didn't take this to heart and sincerely said it was all right, while the foodie Andy, seeing the delicious cookies, was about to reach for them, but was stopped by Bianca. The two happy rivals argued back and forth, neither giving way. Prince Henry asked how the tea party went, and if she had made any close friends. Loni became talkative about this. "I made 3 new friends, Rowena, Agnes, and Sylvia. It was truly fortunate that I attended the tea party." Bianca hadn't expected even Duchess Rowena to attend. After all, attending a tea party at the Duke's mansion could even escalate to a political level. Henry noticed Loni was all smiles, much more cheerful than before. "Lolo, try this cookie. It's super delicious." Just as Loni was about to take the cookie, Andy suddenly snatched it with one bite. Because of the previous incident, he decided to give Henry no chance to get close to Lolo. At this point, the princess asked what game they wanted to play today. Loni hesitated for a moment. Smiling, she said she wanted to play house. Henry immediately seized the opportunity. "Lolo can be the mom and I'll be the dad." Andy also competed, insisting on being the dad. The two fought, neither willing to yield. Seeing this, Loni hurriedly called for a stop. "I have a good idea," and what she said was to let Leon be the dad. The two continued to argue over who would be the brother. Only Leon was secretly delighted inside. "What are you all doing? Don't you know family members can't marry each other?" Loni, who had grown up without family or friends, wasn't aware of this. It turned out that except for royal half-siblings who could marry, others with family relationships were not allowed. Rumor had it that in the era when divine power was common, noble families would adopt children with divine power and have them marry family members to obtain divine power. Later, to prevent this practice, clear laws were established. Loni was heartbroken. This meant if she became family with the Duke, she couldn't marry Brother Yus. But how does one know if they have divine power? Bianca mocked Andy's ignorance, then naturally took Loni's hand to demonstrate. "Like this, by releasing divine power into the body, you'll know. If there's no divine power, you won't feel anything." However, the next second, a tingling current passed through her hand. Bianca was completely stunned, then incredulously asked, "Oh Lolo, do you have divine power?" The princess hurriedly told the Duchess about this, and the Duchess had already suspected. Now that the princess had accidentally injected pure divine power into Loni, and there was resonance between them, it meant Loni likely possessed the same royal divine power. The Duke hoped the girl wouldn't tell others yet. As for the reasons that followed, she didn't quite hear, just feeling very happy to possess special divine power just like Brother Yus. It felt like she was a bit closer to him, so she promised not to tell, then smiled and left the room. A few days later, Loni received an invitation from Agnes. While looking forward to the gathering, she was also thinking about what gift to bring. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew away the letter in her hand. Loni hurried to chase after it, and came to a dark, scary cave. Despite this, she courageously went in. This place didn't seem like a basement at all. Instead, it had a solemn and majestic atmosphere. Suddenly, a sharp sword appeared before her. A strong aura emanated from within, as if calling to her. Just as Loni was about to reach for it, she heard Brother Yus's voice from behind. "Lolo, what are you doing here?" Loni honestly said she came in looking for the invitation, then couldn't help but look at the sword. Yus, noticing her curiosity, voluntarily introduced it. "This is the family's divine artifact, the Spear of Ares. It looks like a sword, but once divine power is injected, it will take the form of a spear." Although Yus wanted to demonstrate, he couldn't do it yet, because to inherit this divine artifact, one must completely clear the spiritual power from the original owner's imprint. After clearing it, one would imprint their own divine power and assimilate it into the divine artifact. Only after completing this step could one truly become the master of the divine artifact. But I'm still far from that now. Seeing Brother Yus seeming a bit dejected, Loni hurriedly firmly stated, "I believe you can definitely do it, so don't push yourself too hard." At this moment, Yus had already decided. To protect Loni, he must consolidate his position as the next family head. Time quickly arrived at the day of the gathering. The Duke and Duchess personally escorted Loni outside. Whether it was the fearsome Duke in rumors speaking softly to her, or this grand farewell procession, even a real Duchess wouldn't receive such treatment. This aroused Sylvia's jealousy, but she gave an evil smile in an unseen corner. Just as the carriage was halfway along the journey, Sylvia suddenly expressed a need to relieve herself, then ran alone into the small forest. Leon felt very strange, just as he was about to get off the carriage to check the surroundings. The next second, a sword flew towards Loni. Thousands of swords shot towards the carriage, instantly piercing all doors and windows. The young Loni was frightened and trembling, while Leon calmly suggested leaving the carriage. At this moment, several burly men walked out from the haystack. The soldiers' attention was diverted to them, and there was another person in the bush, secretly shooting an arrow at the horse's buttocks. The horse immediately jumped in pain. The carriage instantly lost balance. As the carriage compartment was about to crush Loni, Ein quickly saved her, but he himself passed out. At this moment, Leon, who was resisting the bandits, suddenly shouted, "Young lady, don't worry about anything, just run!" Only then did Loni slightly come to her senses. Perhaps leaving this place would be the best help for everyone. However, before she could take action, a man grabbed her from behind. Leon struggled with all his might to rescue her. Even facing fierce bandits, he didn't retreat at all. But the next second, he was severely injured by the bandit leader, and had to watch helplessly as Loni was taken away. Sylvia, who arrived late, looked at the casualties at the scene. She immediately felt she had made a huge mistake. She had thought Miss Rodan just wanted to teach Loni a lesson. She never expected her to do such a thing. At this moment, the Duke and Duchess still didn't know what had happened. They were personally making a mini doll identical to Loni. After spending a month, they finally completed it, but they still felt that the purple crystal couldn't compare to Loni's eyes, so the Duke paid a sky-high price for a purple diamond. Now they were just waiting for it to arrive to replace it. The Duchess was already imagining Loni's adorable excitement, jumping with joy upon receiving the doll. However, at this moment, a guard hurriedly reported, "Young Lady Loni has been kidnapped by enemies." The Duke immediately ordered a squad to search the Saba forest. But because it was Count Tilna's territory, even the Duke couldn't interfere arbitrarily. So he made a decision, which was to promise a favor. The guard's expression was very shocked, as this was a very valuable guarantee. The Mars family who always repays kindness. For them to say they owed someone a favor was a very rare occurrence. The Duke learned that some of the bandits had been captured and were being held in the dungeon. His expression immediately turned cold as he said, "Lead me there, I want to interrogate them personally." At this moment, the prince and princess arrived at the Duke's mansion. They had intended to surprise Loni, but never expected to hear such terrible news. As a prince, Henry could not freely interfere in matters between nobles. But this concerned Loni's safety, and he couldn't stand by, so he decided to secretly join the search party. Meanwhile, the kidnapped Loni slowly regained consciousness. Seeing the masked figure before her, she quickly closed her eyes, planning to find the right moment to leave clues for the Duke. Just then, the carriage suddenly jolted, revealing the emblem on the kidnapper's clothes. Loni immediately recognized it as the symbol of Marquise Rodin's house, so the mastermind was Miss Lydia. Loni's pitiful appearance triggered guilt and fear among the kidnappers. After all, they were knights with their own code of honor. Moreover, the girl was a child sponsored by the Mars family. If discovered, they would surely lose their lives. At this moment, Loni asked tearfully, "May I use the bathroom?" Fortunately, they only gave her a verbal warning and didn't watch her closely. In the current situation, escape seemed impossible, so she looked around hoping to find something to write with, intending to leave some clues behind. Though she was afraid of pain, returning to her family was most important, so she bit the inside of her lip until it bled and removed her sock, writing several English letters on it, hoping the Duke could use this to find her. Alone in the carriage, Loni was heartbroken, wondering how the injured Leon was doing. And those night uncles, she missed everyone so much. Suddenly the carriage stopped. A familiar voice rang out, "My, this look suits you perfectly." The newcomer was indeed Lydia. The malicious girl immediately slapped Loni without warning. The force was so harsh it startled even the knights. "I couldn't slap you then, so now I'm giving you double. Now there's no Andy to shield you. No brother yes for you to act cute with. What will you do?" Lydia laughed maniacally, not at all like a child should. From the beginning, Loni was the one wrongfully mistreated. Yet Lydia was falsely accusing her. "Don't expect your uncle to find you, because you'll never see them again." Loni was shocked, asking if Lydia meant to kill her. "I'm not that evil. I just want to send you back where you belong." Lydia's smile was terribly sinister, instantly reminding Loni of those dark days. Who could possibly save her now? Meanwhile, the Duke had arrived at the forest with his men. Leon felt extremely guilty for failing to protect Loni, not considering that he was still just a child himself, and that he was injured. "My lord, regarding this incident, may I share my thoughts? What have you figured out? Count Tilney's territory is a breeding ground for illegal operations. Slave trading is quite common there, and the largest port, Embark, is a hotbed for human trafficking. So, that place is very suspicious." The Duke found this information highly credible, and immediately dispatched men there. Coincidentally, Andy found the clue Loni had left behind. The letters clearly hinted at Marquise Rodin's house. Could the mastermind really be her? So the Duke sent people to confirm at the Marquise's mansion, and sent young Andy back to the estate for safety. Then he hurriedly led his men toward the port. At this moment, Loni was locked up. After exploring, she discovered a bathroom nearby. Since there must be ventilation for odor control, she needed to escape quickly before being discovered. But just as she climbed up to the window, the door was suddenly burst open. To avoid being recaptured, she jumped down without hesitation, rushing toward the dense forest. But shortly after, she collided with someone. The girl thought she would be captured again, but unexpectedly, the person's voice was as gentle as an angel. "Child, are you lost? What's your name?" Loni didn't recognize the person before her, but instinct told her this wasn't an enemy. So she answered, "I'm Loni. Can you help me?" The person immediately recognized the girl possessed the Eye of Truth. That was something only descendants of the royal family could use. Even the current emperor didn't have such powerful divine power. Before she could confirm the girl's identity, the knights pursuing the girl caught up. Loni instantly reacted like a frightened rabbit, quickly hiding to one side, while the silver-haired woman directed the kidnappers in the opposite direction. But after sending the men away, she found the girl had disappeared from the bushes. However, they would soon meet again. By now, the Duke, with the prince's help, had arrived at Embark Port to search. He firmly believed Loni was still there, since the kidnappers would act during the early morning when guards were less vigilant, so he ordered that even ordinary houses should not be overlooked. Meanwhile, Loni, after running all day, was close to finding a household, but in the next moment, she was captured again. "Try to escape one more time, and I truly won't let you off." The man's grim expression scared the children to tears. Loni also forcibly covered her mouth to avoid making a sound. Just then, someone came in saying something serious had happened. Enemy forces had launched a surprise attack, appearing to be noble soldiers. Loni felt certain the Duke had come to rescue her, so she took advantage of the moment when the two were talking and rushed out, quickly locking the door behind her, not daring to delay a moment as she ran outside. She knew that if she failed this time, she might never escape, but she hadn't expected another door ahead, one that couldn't be pushed open no matter what. Behind her came the kidnappers' sneering laughter. Loni could only change direction to find another exit. She was truly terrified, wondering if she would never return home. In the next second, she crashed into a man, instinctively cowering in fear and sobbing. "Please don't come near me, please." However, the next moment that familiar voice came through. "Lolo, calm down. Everything's all right now." It was the Duke. At this moment, Brother Yus also eagerly rushed toward her. "I'm so glad you're safe. If we hadn't found you, I would have regretted it forever." Loni immediately threw herself into her brother's arms, fearing this was all just a dream. Her tense nerves finally relaxed, and she fell asleep just like that. After some time, they returned to the Duke's mansion. Loni woke from her dreams, immediately burying herself in the Duchess's embrace, sobbing. Everyone was immersed in the joy of recovery after loss, and the Duke's mansion regained its former vitality. Everyone competed for the privilege of spending time with Loni, while young Master Yus directly extended an invitation to her. and so they all moved forward together toward a happy future. Soon they had all grown up. Although Loni knew she possessed divine power, her life continued as before. This was her simple and modest wish. The kind-hearted Loni became a volunteer to help the common people. But as the Empire launched territorial expansion wars, the number of injured continued to grow. So the Mars family established a separate mansion specifically for treating the wounded, and Loni secretly used her divine power to heal those in pain. These years of experience made her ever more grateful to the Duke's family, a debt of gratitude she could never repay. So, she wanted to pass happiness to everyone around her. Just then, Ayn brought a letter. Loni was extremely excited, guessing it was a reply from Brother Yus, who had gone to the battlefield. But unexpectedly, it was an invitation from the royal family. Princess Bianca and Prince Henry's birthdays were approaching. Loni felt quite nostalgic. Due to the war, everyone hadn't seen each other for a long time, but only Ayn knew. This was a measure taken by the Duke to keep her from meeting Prince Henry. Just then, there was a knock at the door. A visitor had arrived, claiming to be looking for a child lost years ago. Over the years, countless people had come claiming to be related. But after testing with divine power, they were all proven false. Therefore, although Loni felt sad, she could recover quickly. Imperceptibly, wrinkles had appeared on the Duchess's face. But in her eyes, Loni was still that little girl who hadn't grown up. However, their peaceful life was about to be disrupted. Today was the day of the royal banquet. Loni attended with her brother and the Duchess. Little girlfriends who hadn't seen each other in a long time happily reunited. While Prince Henry hurriedly came out to make his presence known, seeing his shy demeanor. It was clear he still liked Loni just as he had as a child. Bianca, who had a doting, fond smile on her face, was startled by Andy's sudden appearance, instantly puffing up like a startled cat. The two still fought like in childhood. Loni couldn't help but laugh as well, but she couldn't stop thinking how nice it would be if Brother Yus were here too. Just thinking about Brother Yus made Loni's heart beat uncontrollably, though after all these years she still didn't understand these feelings. Seeing that she was noticed by the others, Loni shyly fled the scene, but accidentally bumped into someone. Her divine power inexplicably manifested. To avoid revealing her divine power, Loni quickly lowered her head and apologized. Thus, she didn't see the woman before her, unaware that the woman was staring at her retreating figure, muttering to herself, "This girl looks very much like the Loni I knew." After investigation, she was surprised to discover that when the child first arrived at the Duke's mansion, she was called Roni. Yet she couldn't believe that was her own Loni. After all, years ago, she had personally confirmed the child was dead. Soon the Duchess learned about someone investigating, and that it was the maid of Countess Castor. The Duchess wondered why the Emperor's lover would investigate Lolo, but in the next moment she had a guess. Years ago, before Castor married, she had disappeared for a year. Many speculated she was hiding to secretly give birth to a child. Whatever the truth, the Duchess could not simply stand by, so she decided to take measures first. Soon it was time for Loni's birthday celebration. Almost all the nobles attended. It was said they would announce Loni's official registration into the Duke's family registry. "Thank you all for attending my birthday celebration. I hope everyone enjoys themselves." Most people were instantly captivated by Loni. Not only was she adorable, but also so poised and graceful. However, a small number of people had hostility in their eyes. With her divine power, Loni could clearly sense it, but she didn't take it to heart, only missing Brother Yusmore at such a moment, as she was lost in thought alone. Andy quietly approached her, worriedly asking if she had been harassed by any young lords. After all, with his sister being so beautiful, how could others remain unmoved? "So if anyone bothers you, just tell your brother." Andy became increasingly agitated, causing quite a commotion. Loni didn't want to be surrounded by onlookers, so she went outside alone to clear her mind. But she again encountered some unpleasant remarks. Eventually, there were even malicious speculations about her relationship with the Duke. "The Duke isn't here, why don't we go chat with her? Perhaps she'll get along well with us." Several sleazy men blocked her path and began harassing her. But the next moment, Andy suddenly appeared. "Such loose tongues, it seems the Mars family is a joke in your eyes?" Though caught red-handed and flustered, the men still felt this was a minor matter, not worth pursuing. But Andy didn't see it that way. How dare they humiliate his beloved sister, just as he was about to take action? Loni unexpectedly pulled him back. "Brother, we don't need to deal with people who don't respect noble reputations." The men realized what was happening and turned red with embarrassment, all demanding Andy deliver justice. But Andy was quite satisfied with his sister's response. Just then, a pleasant male voice came from nearby. "It seems your lives have become too comfortable." Yus gave the three men a good scolding. Then the Duke appeared. His cold, vicious gaze immediately terrified them to the point of wetting themselves. "You people from these families never set foot on Mars family territory again." After having the guards remove them, Loni happily threw herself into the Duke's arms, teary-eyed as she expressed how much she had missed him. Next was Brother Yus. Just one look, and her heart seemed to skip a beat. She couldn't calm down at all. At this moment, Brother Yus lifted her high like when she was little, worriedly saying she was as light as a feather, wondering if she hadn't been eating properly. Loni's face instantly turned bright red, too embarrassed to look up. Andy, feeling neglected, emerged seeking attention. The family once again restored its former liveliness. As a child, the girl had been kidnapped by the Marquise's daughter, almost sold as a slave to another country. After the Duke investigated, he bankrupted the Marquise's family in retaliation, making the noble Marquise's daughter become a maid to the illegitimate princess. Just goes to show, if you don't court death, you won't die. However, despite the humiliation, Lydia remained there, planning to take revenge on Loni, because the princess also liked Yus. But every time Yus returned from the battlefield, he would first go to see Loni. This greatly displeased the princess. What's so good about that kind of person? It's truly infuriating. Although the princess considered Loni too ordinary to be a rival, she still found her extremely annoying. So the malicious princess assigned Lydia a task: to eliminate Loni by any means necessary. This played right into Lydia's hands. Soon, Countess Castor confirmed Loni's identity, though she didn't understand why her daughter, who should have died, would appear there. But it was a good thing now. At the right moment, she could use this without mercy. Just by claiming she was an illegitimate child, she could better manipulate the situation. Then, using her status as a count's daughter for an arranged marriage, she could create better conditions for her son, Hal. This was the only thought that occurred to her, the moment she discovered her daughter was still alive. At this time, Loni was visiting the training ground with brother Andy. The atmosphere between them was still as intimate as when they were children, and the sister complex Andy was preparing to build a snowman with his sister's small doll. For once, the father and sons were in complete agreement. They began building snowmen in pairs, the Duke with Andy, and Loni with brother Yus. While Loni was lost in her own thoughts, she was suddenly hit in the face with a snowball thrown by brother Yus. Instantly annoyed, she lunged at him, but was caught by the hands, immediately turning bright red with embarrassment. Although she knew her feelings for brother Yus were different, she still couldn't understand what those feelings were. Until her brother was called away by the Duke, she just stared at his retreating figure in a daze. A few days later, the Duchess told her husband what she had discovered. Through investigation of the maid who had cared for Castor, and the correspondence between her and the Count, they could confirm Loni was Castor's daughter. And since Loni possessed divine power, the Duke reasonably suspected she was the bloodline of the deposed former crown prince. After all, the two had once been intimate. The Duke and Duchess had ways to keep Loni and Castor completely separated. But what if Loni wanted to reconnect with her birth mother? After so many years together, the Duke and Duchess had always treated Loni as their own child. Though reluctant, they respected Loni's wishes more, only hoping the girl would follow her heart and live happily ever after. Shortly after, the Duke again sought Loni's opinion, hoping she would carefully consider joining the Duke's household registry. "Whenever you're willing, we always welcome you, because we've long considered you family." With mixed emotions, Loni went out alone to clear her mind, although she also loved everyone in the Duke's mansion and wanted to live with them forever. But she had some concerns, feeling that joining the registry would damage the Mars Duke's reputation. Having been under the Duke's protection since childhood, she absolutely would not allow this to happen. Just then, brother Yus rode up on horseback. Having seen she wasn't at the mansion late at night, fearing something might happen, he had specially come out to find her. "I couldn't sleep, so I came out for a walk. You could easily be captured by bad people. What would you do if I hadn't come?" Loni pouted, disagreeing. After all, she wasn't a child anymore. "Since we're out, we can't just do nothing before sending you back." Saying this, Yus extended his hand, inviting her to ride horseback with him. Seeing Loni agree, Yus lifted her up in one motion, and for safety, placed her hands on himself. It seemed there would be no peaceful walk now. The entire way, Loni was extremely bashful, obediently nestled in her brother's embrace, until the horse stopped. She realized the scenery here was breathtakingly beautiful. Yus smiled happily, seeing her gradually relaxing expression, very gently asking, "Does my Lolo have any wishes? I've heard that wishes made in snow-covered fields will surely come true." Loni seemed not to have reacted yet, so Yus spoke up. "Then let me make a wish first. I hope Lolo can live happily with us without worries." At this moment, Loni finally understood. From the first time she met brother Yus as a child, the different emotion that had arisen was actually what people called first love. She didn't know how to face her brother, and could only shyly suggest returning home, while Yus, seeing her reaction, had his own guesses. Meanwhile, Countess Castor was contemplating whether the Duke's mansion would adopt Loni. She found it incredible that the Duke's family would treat Loni, who had no blood relation, as family. So, she formed a theory that the Duke knew about Loni's divine power. Only this would make everything make sense. After all, a girl with divine power would become a powerful card to expand Hal's influence. With crooked thoughts, she decided to confirm for herself. "Go to the Duke's mansion immediately and bring Miss Loni here. I have something very important to tell her." Since realizing her feelings for her brother, the girl had been in an excited state, unable to concentrate on anything. Just then, Aine hurriedly came to report that servants commissioned by her birth parents had come to collect her. Loni didn't take it seriously, having experienced many such mix-ups over the years. But this time seemed different, because before that, the Duchess had something to say. "The people looking for you are related to your birth mother." The Duchess told Loni the whole story. wanting to hear her thoughts. After a pause, the girl solemnly said, "If I don't want to go, can we pretend we don't know?" The Duchess understood this wouldn't work, but even so, as long as Loni didn't agree, they would do everything to prevent things from progressing. However, Loni was still afraid. If her royal divine power was discovered, they wouldn't let it go easily. Things might get even worse. But for now, the royal family hadn't appeared, probably unaware of this matter. Just then, the butler hurriedly reported that the Duke had sent word, asking Miss Loni to meet the people sent by Count Castor's house. The two went downstairs together. The man claimed to be Patterson, the steward of Count Castor's household, sent to escort Miss Loni. "The young lady might be the long-lost daughter of the Countess, so we hope you can come with us to confirm." Loni thought for only a few seconds before firmly refusing. "I don't know either Countess Castor or you, so I won't leave with you." The man immediately invoked the temple, saying the invitation had official temple permission. However, Loni still insisted on refusing, stating even the temple had no right to force her. At this moment, Yus suddenly appeared, adamantly saying, "Please leave, she will not go with you." The steward recalled the earlier instruction, if met with strong refusal from Loni, not to force her. So, after expressing apologies and bowing, he turned and left. However, just as everyone breathed a sigh of relief, urgent voices came from outside. "Terrible news, royal representatives have arrived. They say someone reported the young lady for impersonating nobility." The next second, a squad of soldiers burst in. "Excuse us, the princess commands us to take away the criminal." The Duke was furious, determined to protect Loni. Whatever the charge, this child is a noble, and cannot be forcibly taken away under any circumstances. With that, he drove all the guards out. Only then did Loni recall that in her childhood, to register her in the Duke's household, they had given her the surname of a family about to disappear. So this issue had always been a hidden danger. Seeing everyone busy and worried for her sake, she felt extremely guilty, and secretly made a resolution. Meanwhile, Leon at the temple learned the news, and spent the entire day in a distracted state. He hoped the Holy Maiden would step in to help, but the Holy Maiden knew Loni was actually of royal blood, and would inevitably face hardships in the future. The worried Leon still decided to see Loni. That night, Loni packed her belongings and left the Duke's mansion, to avoid causing more trouble for everyone. This was all she could do. Just then, Leon caught up with her. Loni finally broke down. She didn't actually want to leave. Just thinking about all these years living with everyone like family, she couldn't take a step forward. But besides leaving, she felt powerless. "I must look ridiculous," planning to leave yet dawdling. Leon immediately comforted Loni. "Actually, I don't want the young lady to leave. I believe everyone feels the same. And doesn't the young lady like young Master Yus?" Loni embarrassedly tried to deny it. But Leon had always known clearly. "It's all right. Just as who I like is my own business. Who the young lady likes is the young lady's freedom. So please return to the mansion. This isn't your fault. The people at the Duke's mansion truly love you, so don't leave this place, if only for them." Loni was moved by these sincere words, and decided to face this crisis head-on. The trial assembly begins quickly. Even the Emperor himself came to personally witness it. The illegitimate princess had a smug look on her face. Then she ordered people to bring in the young master of the Clay family. Even his identity token and seal were complete. Now they just needed to verify through the temple's divine power. However, the princess asked Loni to connect with this so-called young master. If their bloodlines were different, it would be life-threatening. At this moment, the Duke finally spoke up. "Before this, we should first verify that young man's identity. Perhaps he is the one impersonating nobility." The man was clearly nervous, as everyone was at an impasse. The high priestess unexpectedly arrived, and accompanying her was Loni. "I heard someone wanted to judge me, so I came." The princess looked at her with disdain, and thoroughly mocked Loni. Surprisingly, Loni directly admitted she wasn't nobility. The two antagonists were extremely pleased. However, in the next second, Loni said something that shocked everyone. "Actually, I am of royal blood. I came here to prove this point." The princess who initiated the report panicked and hastily accused Loni of insulting the royal family, but the emperor warned her with an amused expression. If she lied, even the Mars family would be implicated. Loni would never allow such a thing to happen, and only she herself could explain this matter. The emperor then asked the high priestess to step forward and verify. The high priestess approached with a sacred object. Touching Loni's forehead, she infused spiritual power. Instantly, Loni's pupils turned a transparent blue. Everyone present widened their eyes, including the Emperor and the Duke and Duchess, because the divine power Loni displayed at this moment was unprecedentedly powerful. The Emperor immediately let out a sinister laugh, already thinking of how to use her, so he didn't conduct a deeper test of blood relations. Instead, he recognized Loni as his daughter who had been lost. "Looking closely, you really do resemble me. You're about the same age as the fourth prince. You should become good companions. When you're officially appointed as princess, I'll bestow you with a new name." Loni never imagined she would leave the Duke's mansion in this way. But to resolve the current predicament, this was the only option. "I have something to say to your majesty." It was Lady Mars who noticed I possessed divine power. Without them, I might never have known my true identity. So I hope this matter won't implicate anyone from the Mars family." With these words, the Emperor, who had intended to punish the Duke's household, was left speechless. The tactless princess still wanted Loni to be punished, but unexpectedly, she was reprimanded by the Emperor for spreading rumors. Afraid of being punished, the princess quickly pushed the blame onto Lydia. She harbored resentment against Lady Loni, and even instigated someone to kidnap Princess Loni before. That person is her. The Emperor made an example of her on the spot, ordering soldiers to imprison her. Lydia kept begging Loni for help, pleading for mercy. However, remembering all that happened in childhood, Loni felt no sympathy for her. She turned and left directly. After returning to the Duke's mansion, everyone came to comfort her, concerned. Loni pretended to be very strong, but Yus saw through her pretense. "As long as you don't want to go, the Duke's household will do everything to help you. It's all right, Brother Yus. Being able to grow up in the Duke's mansion has been a blessing. Thank you to the Duke's household for raising me. I truly appreciate everyone's help during this time. I should go now. Please take care of yourselves." Loni hurriedly left the room, knowing that once she was gone, the people of the Duke's household would be safe. But the next moment, she was embraced from behind by Brother Yus. "Lolo, remember this. No matter what happens, you will always be a member of the Mars family, and we will always be by your side." Loni finally couldn't hold back. She turned and hugged Brother Yus, savoring the final moments of warmth. After all, the Emperor was wary of the Duke's household, and would not easily allow them to meet, until officials sent by the Emperor kept urging. Loni finally said goodbye to everyone with a smile. Loni, who had just returned to the palace, was introduced by the Emperor to Countess Castor. "How is it? Isn't my daughter beautiful?" Who would have thought that this mother and daughter's first meeting would be in such a manner? The Countess initially wanted to tell the Emperor the truth, but Loni interrupted first, saying she felt unwell and wanted to leave. She clearly didn't want to be recognized as her daughter. Castor was only sad for a second, then made an outrageous decision: to have her daughter Loni marry her son Hal, to expand Hal's power. Meanwhile, her brother was still blaming himself for failing to protect his sister. "If I had power, would everything be different?" Just then he heard a voice calling brother, thinking Lolo had returned. But when he opened the door, there was nothing. This wasn't like his usual self. He could only hold Lolo's doll and miss her. At that moment in the palace, Bianca was awkwardly calling Loni aunt. Childhood playmates suddenly changing relationships made both of them extremely uncomfortable, so Loni suggested they could be more casual in private. Bianca hugged her with tears, apologizing for the insincere words she had said earlier. After they sat down, Loni quickly asked Bianca about the Duchess's health. "She asked me to tell you that she's well at the Duke's mansion, and is more concerned about whether you're eating properly. Don't worry about anything, just focus on how to be happy here. My brother and I will take good care of you," which made Loni feel somewhat relieved. Although she came to an unfamiliar palace, at least there were still precious people by her side. Just then Bianca took out a pink cloth package, saying it was from Yus for her. Loni opened it with confusion, finding an exquisite hairpin inside. "Though Yus didn't say anything at the time, I could feel he misses you very much." Loni's face instantly turned red. Seeing this, Bianca smiled knowingly. That night, Loni had a dream. In her dream, she wore that hairpin, and Brother Yus appeared beside her, embracing her tightly, constantly expressing his longing. "I miss you so much, Loni." Loni suddenly opened her eyes, self-mockingly wondering how much she must miss Brother Yus to have such a dream. But the next second, a person appeared in her room out of nowhere. When that person removed their cloak, Loni finally saw clearly the person before her. It was actually Brother Yus, whom she had been thinking of day and night. "So Lolo, you're still awake? I've come to see you." Hearing Brother Yus's comforting words, Loni immediately broke down. The two embraced each other. "I miss you so much, Brother Yus." Loni unconsciously spoke her true feelings. This surprised Yus greatly. However, the movement in the room caught the guard's attention. Yus knew it was time for him to leave. He crouched down and leaned close to Loni. "Our Lolo will be alone again, but you must take care of yourself. Remember to eat and sleep on time, okay?" And so they ended this brief meeting. The next day, Loni went to the palace-affiliated temple. She hadn't seen Leon since last time. She heard he had been transferred here. Just then the pontiff appeared with Leon. According to Loni's understanding, the pontiff and the high priestess had equal status, but he possessed significant secular power. Therefore, his position in the palace was no less than the high priestess. After a brief greeting, Loni and Leon went to the courtyard outside. During his time since being transferred here, Leon had discovered some very interesting intelligence. The current royal family claimed publicly that they were the same family as Croyd, who founded the empire, sharing the same bloodline. But there was a rumor that the first emperor who established the empire was actually the first head of the Mars family. Her name was Drona Mars, and the Mars family's ancestors, like the royal family, had the legitimate right to inherit the throne. Normally, such topics were not allowed to be mentioned, but Leon said he overheard others discussing it, clearly hiding something. However, Loni didn't force him to reveal everything. Instead, she let Leon leave. If what he said was true, it meant that the rightful ruler of the empire now should be someone from the Mars family. That's why the royal family was so wary of the Mars family. Taking it a step further, if the founder of the Mars family was indeed a woman and successfully ascended to the throne, it meant that princesses also had inheritance rights. When she returned that day, Loni met an unexpected person. It was Ayn, who had taken care of her since childhood. The Duke had gone to great lengths to bring her in. She became Loni's personal maid again. Ayn groomed her as usual, making Loni nostalgic for her days at the Duke's mansion. Time had passed imperceptibly. Ayn also brought her very important news. The royal family was selecting a dedicated knight for her. They were even holding a swordsmanship competition outside the palace. The winner would become her personal knight. Loni immediately thought of brother Yus. But such thoughts only lasted a second, because she knew that becoming an imperial guard meant being unable to marry. After all, guards with families were considered to have vulnerabilities. Their loyalty couldn't be guaranteed. Just then, a message came from outside that Countess Castor sought an audience. Loni didn't want more people to know about this, so she sent Ayn away first. Unexpectedly, the Countess embraced her, saying today was her birthday, then took out a beautiful necklace from her pocket as a gift. But Loni firmly rejected it. The fact that you are my birth mother cannot be made public, and I remember I've already clearly refused you. The woman didn't expect Loni to be so resolute. It seemed she would need to try harder. Indeed, she began playing on emotions. No matter what, you are still my child. I didn't abandon you intentionally. I searched the entire village and thought you were dead. Also, you are not the emperor's child, but the child of the deposed crown prince. So I couldn't search openly. The current emperor is selfish. If you lose your value, you'll be discarded. So to secure your position, you must rely on your brother Hal. Loni felt disgusted. The implication was clearly to have her marry her brother whom she had never met. She had thought her mother would feel guilty, but this was unexpected. What exactly am I to you? This was your purpose from the beginning, wasn't it? If I had gone to the Count's mansion, I would have lived miserably as an illegitimate child. Madam just wanted to use me from the start. With that, Loni resolutely showed the woman out. A few days later came the swordsmanship tournament. Today was the day to select her guard knight, and she learned important news from Ayn. That brother Yus was participating in this competition to become her knight. Once selected, he could never inherit the title or marry and have children. And this competition field was absolutely merciless. Losing one's life would only indicate lack of ability. Loni kept praying in her heart, brother must stay safe. Soon the competition officially began. Before long, Yus successfully reached the finals. The emperor was very displeased about this, and Princess Aileen, who liked her, was even more unhappy. She directly proposed having Yus marry into the royal family. Loni knew that once the emperor accepted, even brother Yus couldn't easily refuse, so she pointed out the unreasonableness of proposing marriage to a competing knight. Unexpectedly, the emperor turned the question back to her. Do you want the Mars family's eldest son to be your knight? The atmosphere instantly cooled. Fortunately, Loni was quick-witted. She stated that changing rules midway would affect the royal family's reputation. And if someone from the Mars family became a knight, wouldn't that mean he would be loyal to the royal family? The emperor immediately found this reasonable. Perhaps he could even use this to suppress the Mars family's influence. Sure enough, Yus successfully won the competition. The emperor knew that becoming an imperial guard meant being unable to inherit a title, yet he mockingly said the Mars family's future looked bright. However, Yus ignored him. Instead, he knelt before Loni. Yus of the Mars family wishes to swear allegiance to the princess. Would you accept my oath of loyalty? He then kissed the back of Loni's hand. I hope my request doesn't pressure the princess too much. Hearing these words, Loni finally smiled with relief, with brother Yus by her side. It seemed any difficulty could be overcome. After returning, Yus once again clarified his purpose in coming. I came to protect you voluntarily, and father also hoped I would do this, so you don't need to worry about anything. The two briefly forgot everything else, embracing tightly, cherishing this hard-won moment of happiness, unaware that danger was approaching. Meanwhile, the Duke received news of unrest in the reclaimed country of Senberg. However, this was a critical time for the expedition to Granchess. There was fear of unexpected developments. There was also another important piece of news. Count Louis, who originated from the former enemy nation of Felton, had requested the emperor to marry Princess Aileen to him. Normally, the emperor had no reason to refuse. In the past, Louis had personally beheaded Felton's lord, allowing the empire to easily reclaim Felton. But the Duke couldn't stand this person. At the same time, he sensed that Felton had a high probability of restoration, based on various clues. Leon was likely the missing son of the Felton Grand Duke. They looked exactly alike. He just hoped Loni wouldn't get caught up in these complicated affairs. On the other side, Loni, who was in a good mood, received an unexpected visitor. The High Priestess had also discovered something. She questioned Loni about Leon. Although Loni had grown up with Leon, she actually didn't know much about him. Just then, the High Priestess revealed shocking information. that Leon had a hidden identity, and the royal family would soon be embroiled in bloody turmoil. Shortly after, she appeared as a princess for the first time, but could only gaze at her family from the Duke's household from afar. Fortunately, having Brother Yus beside her made her feel less lonely. However, because of her status, people approached her for various reasons, forcing Brother Yus to personally fetch drinks. This New Year's banquet made Loni see clearly that the Emperor favored the fourth prince. He even found excuses to prevent the Crown Prince and Princess Bianca from attending. Just as she was looking around in boredom, an assassin disguised as a maid rushed out. Thankfully, Yus arrived in time. The scene instantly became chaotic. Yus subdued the person with overwhelming strength and discovered the woman's true identity. She was a knight from Senberg, the reclaimed enemy country. After having her taken away, Yus immediately went to check on Loni's condition. Though uninjured, she was clearly severely shocked. She was truly terrified. Despite being prepared, she still couldn't accept the cruelty here. This incident alarmed the Duke's household, and Yus realized that merely protecting her by her side was far from enough. He must take Lolo away from the Emperor. He, who had always been loyal, actually proposed forcing the Emperor to abdicate. After all, the current Emperor only cared about his own interests, ignoring the Empire's citizens. And surprisingly, the Duke seriously considered it. Weakening royal power and strengthening one's own was the hard truth. Soon I will follow the royal order and lead troops to Felton to suppress the rebellion. The severe cold and terrain were very unfavorable to him, but the Duke had already devised a strategy. We can no longer trust the Emperor, we must protect Lolo ourselves. A few days later, Loni received news that the Duke was injured and missing during the expedition. The last sighting of the Duke was in the Iris Gorge where a struggle had occurred. He might have been ambushed while searching for food and water, and given that it was a cliff, he had likely met with misfortune. Loni painfully collapsed to the ground. This made Yus very uncomfortable. He ordered everyone out. Afterward, he told Loni that father was still alive. The details couldn't be discussed here. But before that, I need to take you to meet someone. Loni thought they were going to see the Duke, but unexpectedly, Yus asked how much she knew about Leon. We're going to the church now, and there you'll learn some important facts, not just about father's whereabouts, but also about your good friend Leon. Soon, Loni followed Yus to the church and met Leon, who had been missing for a long time. After a brief greeting, Loni asked why she was brought here, and Yus truthfully told her the Duke's disappearance was pre-planned. It turned out the Duke couldn't stand the Emperor's arbitrary rule and wanted to check royal power. Only when the Mars family was away would surrounding countries take action. Then the royal family would have to rely on the Mars family's strength. But what was unexpected was that the Emperor also tried to eliminate the Duke. So after being attacked, the Duke took the opportunity to hide. Hearing that the Duke was injured, Loni was extremely worried. To avoid causing her too much concern, Yus didn't reveal the actual extent of the injuries, instead saying the Duke was hiding in a secret base and was very safe. The intimate scene between them deeply hurt Leon, but he chose to keep his feelings hidden. So how long will the Duke have to hide? A few months at most. When the Empire's control weakens and occupied countries begin to rebel, the royal family will need the Mars family's help. Then why is Leon here? What connection does he have to this? The Duke gave me a suggestion, asking if I wanted to reclaim Felton. Loni suddenly realized Leon was actually the missing son of the Felton Grand Duke. The Duke hopes I can become the Grand Duke of Felton and lead the rebels to help him. A few days before the incident, the Duke had approached him. Initially, Leon had no intention of restoring his country. He only wanted to stay by Loni's side, because Loni was his new goal and reason to live. But the Duke told him his sister, who had supposedly committed suicide, was still alive, and was currently imprisoned in the traitor Louis's mansion. She would live in the shadows for the rest of her days. Moreover, becoming the Grand Duke of Felton and having power would better protect Loni. How could he refuse something so beneficial? I hope you'll forgive me for not being able to stay by your side. They held hands, encouraging and blessing each other. Soon, the Emperor received news of the Felton rebellion. Clearly, without the Mars family, no one could stop the occupied countries from rebelling. Out of options, the Emperor was furious. But when he thought of Loni, he revealed a very sinister smile. He immediately ordered her to dismiss Yus, since Imperial guards couldn't break their oaths, and having the Emperor issue the order would invite criticism. The best solution now was for Loni to dismiss Yus herself, let Yus return to inherit the Mars family, then lead troops to the battlefield to suppress the reclaimed country of Felton. Loni could hardly believe it. The Emperor clearly knew the Duke was in danger but took no action. Now he wanted Brother Yus to follow the same path, so she directly refused. But unexpectedly, the Emperor's face changed instantly. Do you want the Mars family to be exterminated? The Emperor not only threatened verbally but also applied physical force. At that moment, Loni's divine power activated involuntarily. She saw the Emperor ordering someone to disguise as Felton forces to eliminate the Duke, and create false documents framing the Mars family for collusion with enemy countries. Sure enough, the Emperor immediately used this to threaten her. But But if Yus went to the battlefield and achieved merit, he could make amends. I will also forgive his father's mistakes. Loni knew that direct confrontation was useless now. She could only pretend to know nothing. That night, Loni disguised herself and sought out Yus, and told him everything exactly as it happened. Although I got his promise, I still have to send you to the battlefield. I'm so afraid you'll be hurt. Yus immediately grabbed her hand to comfort her. What you're worried about won't happen. But don't do such dangerous things in the future. What if the Emperor notices? Remember to always put yourself first. After all, you are my most important person. Such moving words made Loni's heart race, and Yus felt the same way, so he made a promise. Even if I resign from my position as Imperial Guard, I'll come back immediately whenever you need me. Until then, please stay safe, okay? Although neither had explicitly confessed. How was this different from being in a relationship? They moved closer to each other, savoring this rare moment of warmth. Soon came the day of Yus's expedition banquet. The fourth prince, whom she had never formally met, appeared. By blood relation, they were half-siblings with the same mother, but by their father's generation, he was her uncle's child. So the fourth prince calling her sister was confusing. And when she learned the Emperor had arranged for Hal to be her dance partner for this banquet, she couldn't help but be shocked. What were they trying to do on the way to the banquet hall? Hal also said strange things. Sister, only if I become Emperor will Mother be happy. That's all. After appearing together, Hal left. The Duchess, whom she hadn't seen for a long time, took the opportunity to speak with her. Their polite but distant manner made Loni sad. But the next moment, the Duchess leaned in close, whispering in her ear, "If you encounter any difficulties, you can always tell us. We will always stand by your side." Family who understood each other didn't need many words. The moment of parting quietly arrived. Yus, as the leader of the Mars family, swore to be loyal to the royal family, then looked at Loni passionately and said, "And I vow to protect the Empire with my life, to ensure the princess suffers no harm." No one could predict what the outcome would be, and the horn of war thus sounded.